winning the major, being the number one team in the entire world, unforeseen win streaks and utter dominance of the scene. There have been countless who have tried, fewer who have managed to do it, and even fewer who have managed to do it, and then do it again. Robin Rops Cool. He joins a team, and then proceeds to shit on everybody else with said team. He joins FaZe in 2022, they're champions. He joins Vitality this year in 2025, and they're champions again. But what is it about Rops that makes every single team that he joins to this day start to dominate everyone? Well, I am going to break it down. But first, let me take y'all back, like I do so well. 12th of April 2017, Rops joins mousesports, replacing Spiddy, German player who decided to retire at the age of 21, who then decided to not retire, come back and be mid for 6 more years, unfortunately.
It was like a torture.
And you've been on this team for so long, for over 4 years. Is this the strongest lineup you had to...
Mavs' roster at the time was Dennis, Lowell, Rops, Oscar, and Chris J. As a 17-year-old rookie straight out of the hell that is FPL, Rops put up a 1.12 rating in his debut year, which isn't quite the start like Zywoo or Donk or other massive prodigies you see today, but it's definitely respectable.
Counter-Strike. Fucking go to juice.
Mavs at the time was a very turbulent team, making multiple roster changes after they booted the Spanish dude after like half a year. But to briefly touch on this earlier period for Mavs, the early days, if you will.
God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
The first events for Mavs after the addition of Rops were an absolute fucking mess. They juggled 3 events at once. Those being ESL Pro League Season 5 Europe, ECS Season 3 Europe, and DreamHack Open Tours 2017. One of those tournaments didn't matter, the other one's format was absolutely like fucking ridiculous, and the other one kind of mattered like a little bit. No, but ECS's format here is just 18 maps over the course of 2 months, and none of them are best of 3s. They decide to play each team twice for shits and giggles, also they can qualify for the next one. Despite the chaos, Rops put up a 1.13 rating, second on the team only to Oscar's 1.18. At this event, Simple actually topped the charts with a 1.39 rating, playing for, of course, fucking Ninjas in Pajamas. However, in September of 2017, ESL 1 Mykonos in Greece came along. A Tier 1 event in Greece where Mavs had finally gotten accustomed to their lineup and they were ready to show the world what they were capable of. They swept through the group stage without much difficulty. They shat on this really admittedly funny heroic lineup. They edged out Gambit with some early Rops heroics. And then they finally took down Liquid in a best of 5, which looked like it was actually quite the banger match. Also marking the first of many trophies for Mr. Robin Cool.
Oscar's got 2, Sticker's gonna finish it, and mousesports, they've done it. The trophy is theirs. It has been such a underdog story. LMBT and Rops. These 6 players have done it. They are your champions. Mousesports are your ESG Tour Mykonos champions.
Rops put up a 1.14 rating, already showcasing his massive balls, clutch, and ability to keep his composure in these high-impact moments. But as it kind of seems to historically with Mavs and any of their rosters, this roster entirely fell apart then at the end of 2017. Stico, Oscar, and Sonny were all cut from the team, citing differing visions for the future, which is what teams say when they don't want to say that they were fighting or had massive beef behind the scenes, even though I really like to assume that they were in a lot of cases. But I am kind of justified in this one in particular, because Rops was asked at the end of 2018 in an interview about the team moving in together in some sort of gaming house, which was a popular concept back then, but Rops kind of outright said that they wouldn't be able to make it work due to differing personality issues, and yeah, definitely not because Chris J is probably a fucking Nazi. But now that we're all familiar with the big balls clutch god himself, let's move on to New Testament CS, where we can all be kind of happy and familiar with it instead of this 2018 bullshit. But FaZe Clan, I just got goosebumps, I know you did too. The name alone carries so much dopamine release, you know? And they're pretty shit at the moment, but what if I told you they were actually even shitter back in 2021? The roster consisted of Carrigan, a veteran IGL who at the time was under a lot of scrutiny and hadn't really won anything with FaZe. There's also Brokey, an up-and-coming opper from FPL who had come up in a similar fashion to Rops actually. Twists, a superstar from the Intel Grand Slam winning Team Liquid of 2019. There's veteran Rain, who at the time was under a lot of heat from the community, calling him washed and inconsistent. And then you have Olaf Meister, who is, you know, Look, I know Olaf is a legend of the game, and he's a former #1 player, but at the time he was less making game-winning plays and more so just struggling to farm ecos, which really isn't going to cut it, especially for a FaZe clan that has such high aspirations of being a tournament-winning team, having just come from the roster that was the super team back in 2018-2019 with Nico and Coldzera. So FaZe were really struggling at this time, and Karrigan had actually played with Rops back when Karrigan was on MOUZ, which I didn't cover because that whole part is a mess. But Karrigan had actually had his eye on Rops to bring him to FaZe clan, and sort of felt like once they got Rops in the team, then they'd be able to start going. And that's where he comes in. On the 3rd of January 2022, it is announced that FaZe has signed Rops. And Karrigan in 2021 had actually said that Rops made it quite difficult for him to leave MOUZ and come to FaZe in the first place.
He was one of the big part of why it was hard to leave MOUZ. I have really good working relationship with Rops. We really evolved together. We really respect it a lot because we really work hard both, you know. When you look at each other and you see both people working really hard, you kind of work even harder, you know. You wanna try to impress the guy next to you who's working really hard as well. So yeah, I think that's the best way to answer that. This is by far the most complete player I've played in. As of working around the game, understanding the game, wants to improve constantly.
And as Rops was now in the team, they could finally get to cooking. Rops also brought secondary calling, and as I said before, he could anchor entire sites and positions on maps by himself. And this is all why Rops for Olaf Meister wasn't just a big upgrade, it was a game changer for the team. It changed the structure and dynamic. But where FaZe clan would really excel was not entirely just with roles and reads, but with chemistry. That's what we used to call FaZe clan magic back in 2022. You still see it nowadays with, you know, FaZe making 2 back-to-back major fucking grand finals last year, but it's not as common as it used to be, especially back when the trio of Brokey, Twistzz, and Rops were on the same team. Many have referred to this team as one of the most clutch teams of all time, if not the most clutch team of all time. I mean, they had 4 players playing at practically what was their peak form, as they all ended up in the top 20 at the end of the year. But their synergy was unmatched. They were pulling out 2v4s and 2v5s out of their fucking asses in the most intense games of the year.
2 versus 5 from FaZe. Is it really that unthinkable?
Look how careful that smoke was. Gave him a gap to stand in and ready to peek, and he's now looking for more.
Look at this. This is the stars of FaZe trying to join forces.
Oh my god.
And Rops gets a second, but that one costs him a ton of HP, so you'd think he's setting up Brokey, but that frag was right on res.
Who has the gap?
The Shadow!
Rops with 3!
3 kills into this 2v5, and Rops has done it all. Brokey's nothing but support at this point. Plopsky throws out that smoke, trying to give him space to work, and Rops says thank you.
That's the invitation. He
He's
can
gonna
phase
hide.
this. 15 seconds. Brokey on the outside. They can jump Mike. They know that.
Switch guns. Brokey onto the A1S. Plopsky goes over the graveyard. Brokey tries to hide. He gets that first one. A single kill away from keeping this as close as they can. And it's Brolin, the boy wonder.
Oh!
FaZe clan 2v5 to send them.
Whoa, okay, yeah, we know the team's great, but why? How are they doing all of this? Well, it all starts in Katowice 2022, in the Spodek Arena. Hosted every single year, its prestige is similar to that of winning a major championship. Winning here is the dream. The start of 2022 was a really exciting time for the scene, with all these massive big name orgs making massive upgrades all at the same time, trying to catch up to the major winning Na'Vi with Prime Simple that had just won their major a few months prior at Stockholm. G2 acquired child prodigy m0NESY and revered in-game leader Alexi B, these moves being considered massive upgrades as G2 had just made that major final back in 2021 against Na'Vi. Vitality, who were looking like the second best team in the world almost in late 2021 with a dead team, had acquired Magisk and Dupree from the Prime Astralis era lineup of 2018 to 2020. All these rosters kicking off for the first time was absolutely insane. But for FaZe clan, I imagine the pressure was even higher. With every team making these massive changes around them, they wanted to get off to a good start of the year, but it was going to be tough. IEM Katowice kicks off. FaZe clan have boot camped for weeks in preparation, getting ready their new roster to show exactly what they were What? Well, Rops is COVID and can't play. What the fuck do we do now? At JKS, Justin Keith fucking Savage, our Lord and Savior, cometh to FaZe Clan to shit on these kids. And shit on these kids he does, as they demolish Liquid in their opening game. And luckily, Rops was uncompromised by the time their playoff qualification game came along, where they took down Fnatic 2-1 without very much stress, and they were on their way to show what they could do on stage. Now with their full roster, they were finally capable of actually showing what FaZe Clan...
Ah, shit.
Rain is going. Alright, Justin Keith Savage one more time come forth once again to shit on these kids, this time in front of more people. Get him back in here. Get him back. JKS rejoins FaZe this time with Rops, where they are ready to cook up some trouble.
Listen, for FaZe, considering all they've gone through, man, like, I feel bad for them, but...
They face infamous onliner Team Gambit in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, and they absolutely made them look like chumps. They made them look like fools. And who destroyed Gambit, you ask, and I hear you. Well, it was, of course, our boy.
Chime in at once, they even wrap Brokey. It's left to Rops. Biggest challenge yet. They do feed in the first. Not like this, Gambit. Don't give this guy a chance. Don't give them a reason to believe. Rops has got plenty of time. That's
creep in his way. Smoke in the way, and Rops does not respect it. Oh, he's seen something. He knows. Rops with every angle in the world to clear, but a one-on-one is presented. 55. Rops sneaks further. There's the shot. Rops has found two. This is a one-on-four. Oh no! And Rops might just knock them all down. The coolest kid on the block in a 1v1 to send Gambit a map down in this quarterfinal.
Rops, this is it. They're chanting his name. He's sweating right now. He might be about to do it to him. A 1v4 that Rops is looking to get over the line to take this map away from Gambit. Axel up through the window. Rops has heard something. Rops knows. Oh, there's the closer! Rops, what a way to lock in Dust 2. A map up now in the quarterfinals, and Rops ain't playing around.
And the juicing didn't stop there. They demolished Heroic in the semifinals. It wasn't even close. Then the final was set. Most of the team hadn't been on a stage of this caliber, especially not a final, but Rain and Karrigan had been. In fact, they had actually lost this exact final twice before, in 2017 and 2018. They had come second place in devastating losses to Astralis and Fnatic, respectively, so this final meant a lot to these guys. FaZe Clan's opponent in the final was G2 Esports, featuring superstar Nico, now joined by wonderchild m0NESY, who is being hailed by the baby goat by the community and analysts alike. They had just eliminated tournament favourites Na'Vi in the semi-finals, and they were looking unstoppable, and m0NESY was looking like a different breed.
The situation we have been in the last 14 days, coming here, beating Gambit 2-0 in the quarterfinal, and now Heroic 2-0. What can I say? I'm really proud. The way that the Brokey is clutching, and if he's not clutching, we have Rops ready to clutch.
They drop onto him. There's the first. And Rops, it's another clutch.
You know, m0NESY versus Brokey, that's an AWP duel. The best two AWPers at this tournament playing against each other.
Brokey, this isn't even a clutch, but he's doing it all right.
Being in the final and bringing FaZe back to where they belong and lifting a trophy for FaZe once again, that would be so amazing. This is definitely one of the biggest one in the world.
So with the stage set, the best of 5 grand final kicks off. With some heroics from Nico and Alexi B, G2 take the pistol flawlessly. They're able to convert, and FaZe are left trailing 0-3. The struggles continue throughout FaZe's T side as they collect quite a few opening kills but continuously fall flat when it comes to actually taking the site themselves. Maybe the pressures of a prestigious grand final are just too much for a team playing with a stand-in as the half ends 11-4 in the favour of G2. The second half starts with 2 of FaZe's star fraggers dinked down to 10 HP. However, with Rops delivering a belter from all the way down Banana and a literal miracle from Brokey with a shot through the smoke, the bomb is defused with a kit. We are so back, just kidding, it is so over. FaZe convert the next 2 rounds to bring the score to 7-11, and then without hesitation shit the bed, and G2 struts straight to 15. The score is 7-15, it's a 3v3 on the A site with G2 having weapon advantage. The clock is ticking low and Rops finds a pick onto Nico on the short side with Twists and Mini Pit face of a pretty standard but effective crossfire to prevent G2 from making it onto the site, clearing the site and winning. However, Twists gets found and Rops, instead of playing the crossfire, prioritizes his life here, as he knows with the time on the clock, G2 have mere seconds to clear him off the site before they can plant safely, and Rops not fighting at all here causes G2 to simply run out of time. And this is where I believe Rops is a big difference maker. It's crunch time, with the pressure on the stage facing map point being more pressure than most players will ever face in their entire career. But Rops not only keeps himself cool, but his teammates as well. What a lad. And with this, FaZe embark on a comeback for the ages. They break G2's money, forcing them to eco, making it a lot easier for FaZe to get closer to forcing overtime. Clawing the way back from 15-7 all the way to 15-14, they were looking to finally take it to overtime. But in the last round, it started to look like it was all going to fall apart. A mistake from FaZe leaves Brokey open to the Apps walk-in and Hunter pops him. Rops trades this kill, but both JKS and Twists go down, leaving Rops alone and exposed up against 4. Alone on the site entirely. And now G2 are just one round away from taking the first huge advantage, leaving Karrigan and Rain once again facing the possibility of another soul-crushing loss in the arena. But when 99% of players crumble under the pressure in this situation, Rops knew what he had to do.
Towards A, but that's crumbling as well. Rops is in a huge amount of trouble. He's going to try and take matters into his own hands. Couldn't find the second shot fast enough, but Jax, he drops in. Oh, talk about an Estonian. Oh, talk about a superstar. Talk about the elite. Rops is on a rope, and we're going to overtime, baby.
And one of the first tournaments was Katowice 2022. Me catching COVID, Rain catching COVID, JKS as stand-in. It goes without saying, the ace I did versus G2 in Katowice, it can't be a higher pressure situation. It's the play of my career.
The way he moves and isolates duo, this comes down.
Look me in the eyes right now and tell me that Olaf wins that. In that position. If Olaf is there, they probably don't even get out of groups. Olaf probably gets COVID. FaZe went on to win this final in one of the closest finals ever played, which I will have to make a different video on. But this broke Karrigan's curse and begun what was essentially a dynasty for this FaZe Clan team.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Back to 2021 when Olaf was still in FaZe, their map pool just wasn't strong enough. They had a lot of exploitable gaps, mainly Nuke, Overpass, and Ancient. Nuke is definitely a tough one for them since there's a very common narrative that all of the best teams in the world are some of the best Nuke teams. This is because Nuke is one of the most tactically diverse maps. Its intricacies with its vertical nature, team coordination, and tactics are really vital. olofmeister actually played Ramp on Nuke for FaZe Clan, and I could see this being a bit of an exploitable weakness, especially if his form was declining. If the Ramp player dies on Nuke, the CTs have to compensate quite a lot. They have to make uncomfortable rotations, they have to take map control elsewhere, and generally just fucks up their shit. They also picked Ancient quite a lot as their first map, despite having a 7-8 win-loss record on the map, which meant there was quite a lot of exploitable holes in the map pool for FaZe. And on Ancient for FaZe, their A anchor was Karrigan. And with all due respect to Karrigan, as a solo site hold, if he loses the site, then the retake is almost impossible, and that left a large portion of the map kind of weak for FaZe during that year. But with Rops coming in, he is known for his ability to hold down a site all by himself without needing much assistance or help from his teammates at all, which fills up a lot of gaps and holes in not only these certain positions, but in their map pool as a whole. If you take a quick comparison by comparing their map win rates from 2021 to 2022, it's... I mean, do I really have to say much here? Following this first massive win with the momentum of Rops joining, FaZe Clan went on to win ESL Pro League. They won the Antwerp Major that year, with Rain getting a major MVP and Karrigan finally getting his chip, and they also won IEM Cologne, all in the space of one season at the start of 2022, which is still to this day the most successful season for any team in CS history. Now, if that doesn't show you exactly why Rops is a massive game changer and how much he can bring to a team, then I don't know what will. But what if I did know what will? What if I'm about to tell you what will? As I said at the start of this video, that crazy bastard, he's actually done it again. In 2025. Let me take y'all forward, man, like I do so well.
Ain't no fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
But some context first. After their unbelievable start of the year in 2022, FaZe Clan really didn't do much. They struggled to keep their form, and it was obvious other teams were catching up to them. They had a fairly successful start at the beginning of CS2, what with a slew of second place finishes, painfully including Katowice 2024 and making the major final of both majors in 2024 and losing them both.
It was 12-5, I'm like, okay. But then I start believing for every round. And then it just goes down to a 1v1.
Karrigan, Rain, Brokey, fighting for overtime. Zontix has to pick his moment, find his charge, and he has struck brilliantly onto Rain. It's collapsing around them.
And boom, game over, we lost.
It's overtime! Denied! Regulation converted!
It's getting hard to know the truth.
I think worst of all is, you know, we believed in the end.
And in comes Vitality, a big name org with even bigger players. The roster in 2024 consisted of the last living based Frenchman, Apex, ZywOo, one of the best players in the world, essentially a fucking cyborg, at FlameZ, a top 10 rifler, crisp as hell, sick as hell. They had Spinks, top 5 rifler and ZywOo's right hand man. They had Mezzy, Birmingham. They had a decent year in 2024. They made the playoffs of both majors, losing to FaZe Clan in each. They choked a grand final to Stewie 2K in the year of our Lord, but they did get their only win of the year at IEM Cologne, which is a pretty decent one win to get in a year if you're thinking about it. But with players of ZywOo and Spinks' caliber, you could only expect them to have better results and win trophies, because it was a roster designed to win trophies above all else. But then the beef came along. Spinks, you see, he wanted out. Now, I'm gonna spread rumors. I love rumors. There were rumors speculating that Spinks wasn't really getting on with some members of the team. He didn't really like Apex's calling, and maybe he had beef with the guy from Birmingham. And Spinks actually plays quite a similar role to Rops in the form of lurking and clutching while maintaining very, very high firepower statistics. When it was finalized that Spinks was leaving, I mean, what better replacement can you get than Rops? This transfer created an absolute shockwave in the scene. Rops said after joining, when I joined FaZe, I felt like we could win everything from that moment on. Joining Vitality, I shared the same feeling. Apollo had bestowed upon Rops the gift of prophecy. Rops very clearly was not fucking around, and Vitality weren't fucking around either, so it was looking good. Minus Spinks plus Rops was less of a massive firepower upgrade like minus Olaf plus Rops. It was maybe even more of arguably a side grade, what with Spinks having a better individual year than Rops in 2024, with Spinks grabbing 13th place on the HLTV top 20 and Rops only getting 18th, a massive downfall from his third best player in the world year in 2023. But it was clear that Rops' shortcomings were maybe more related to FaZe's shortcomings than they were to himself. I do think this move, however, was a massive upgrade, but in very different ways to the Olaf move. I mean, obviously considering the beef, they didn't want Spinks in the team, but also with what Apex said about Rops, which mirrors what Karrigan had said about Rops when he had joined FaZe. Apex claimed that Rops had probably the best work ethic from any player I've played with. He has some of the best experience in the game, unmatchable in a way, because he knows what it is to perform at the highest pressure moments, and he knows what is needed for a team to win. With the path to success laid out immediately for this Vitality squad, the season begins. The first big event rolls around, and Katowice 2025. Ah shit, here we go again. Similar to Karrigan's Katowice curse, Vitality had their own sort of curse in a way. Since Vitality's inception, they had failed to make the playoffs of the Spodek Arena every single year, apart from 2023 when they had still went out in the quarters. However, all those years where they went out, they didn't have Rops, and the show begins. Vitality blitz their way through the group stage, 2-0 3D Max, a team that can't really be underestimated. They take down a mega-hyped FaZe Clan 2-1 and brush aside Virtus Pro without any issues to speak of. The synergy is already there, which is made pretty apparent by the return of the king of trash talk, Apex.
Captain leading from the front. God, he's pissed.
The smoke, but Mezzi as that third player's just too much to handle, and it's a flawless defense.
Dude, I don't know what's gotten into Mezzi.
British player! Oh my god!
What the hell? He's making fun of his own teammates.
Bro, I'm right here.
They top their group and go straight to the semi-final against the Mongols. The Mongols are known as playoff bed shitters, perhaps, but they had actually won their quarterfinal against fellow playoff bed shitters Eternal Fire. Rops' impact in the playoffs, well, where have we seen this before?
Rops alongside for the right. Mazinho is walking through smokes, and he hits the headshot. But Rob's in the clutch, not to be written out of this one. Playing around the smoke, playing Mazinho at his own game. Mazinho down. One required blitz, typically on those flanks. Rob's not considering it, looking short. Element of surprise for blitz. Rob's trying to piece this together. He's got time to work. He's a diligent clearer of the angles. Blitz stays static. Still has vision of that bomb. Rob's on the re-clear. Keeping that crosshair ready for a quick flick. Time becoming a factor, gets his spot, and he composed to close!
And with the way he plays, it's hard not to put all of your trust into him as a teammate, I'm sure of that. So the final was set. Rops was set up to deliver the repeat with Vitality 3 years on after what he had accomplished in 2022 with FaZe. But their opponents in the grand final was Spirit. And Spirit were undoubtedly the favourites. They had just won the Shanghai Major a couple months prior, with Donk still spearheading the argument for best player in the world. So we were in for what seemed like a banger best-of-5 final, again. But that shit did not happen.
For us, just three on Dust 2. They Donk was the already. I think Magic's himself. Shiro, this is they ate 5.
That's bouncing off the claw the back.
Vitality are up 11-5 on the third map, 2 rounds away from breaking their curse and mirroring the Rops story that FaZe Clan had experienced 3 years prior. But then, something activated in Spirit. Chopper takes a timeout and says to the team, "Guys, if you think we are good, let's prove it now." 11-5. And did they come back? Of course not, 13-11, but they actually did get pretty close. And so begins Vitality's reign of terror on the scene. After this win, they went on to win ESL Pro League Season 21 and Blast Open Lisbon, where they were the first team in recorded history to win a map 13-0 in the grand final of a Tier 1 event. While this is impressive by itself, they have not lost, to this date of recording, a single match since Katowice 2025 started. They haven't lost a series since the 24th of January. They're now on a 16-match win streak with a 95% series win rate. This type of dominance hasn't really been seen, well, since FaZe 2022's win streak. How long this will go on, we don't know. But if they can truly mirror FaZe's run and go on to win the Austin Major this summer, and maybe more, well, that's up to the big man Rops. Well, I suppose that's a wrap on this dude. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to continue understanding CS with me, and understand CS I will do. Nico Glazer out.